I want to, this evening, I want to look at this passage from a different viewpoint. As a matter of fact, you may not have ever heard this passage from this viewpoint before, but I want to focus. I want to focus on this one man. The man with this one bag of gold or one talent. And I actually don't even want to focus on the man. I want to focus on the one talent and the significance of that one talent. Because I'm convinced of this. If we could get a revelation of the significance of those things which seem insignificant to us, will change what we do with those things, which will change things that are unlocked in our life. You know, I was giving an illustration to a man of God the other day. I said, you know, if I was to give you, in my office, I have this little iPhone holder. It's not very significant when you look at it. It's just this little iPhone holder, and I grabbed it in my hand and I threw it to him. I said, here, I want you to hold on to this. And even when I threw it to him and it fell on the ground, I was like, oh, no big deal. Now, what do you think that this young man would do with that iPhone holder? He's probably look at it, probably put it somewhere, leave it somewhere. It wouldn't seem like it was that important because it's not very significant, because it wasn't significant to me, so it's not going to be significant to him. And if he interprets it that way, then truly there's no significance to that which he's holding, so he's not really going to care for it. However, after that, I had my keys in my hand. I threw my keys. I said, listen, on those keys, and on that keychain is the key to my office, the key to my house, the key to my car. And it gives you access to every part of my life, every personal part of my life. You have access to it. Here you go. Now, you see, that man will treat the keys a lot differently than he treats that iPhone stand. Why? Because of the significance of those keys and how I value those keys. See, I want, first of all, if we're going to look at this story, we have to make something straight. A lot of us look at the amount that was given to the servant and not the value which was given to the servant. And I know tonight I'm coming from a different angle, but I need you to get this in your spirit, because too many times we look at the amount of something. Too often we look at the crowd of something instead of the value of something. And tonight the Lord is wanting us to put back our attention and our focus on that which He values. This master, whether it was 5, 2, or 1, had the same value system for all. That coin was valuable. The coin that the man that had 5 coins or pieces of gold or talents, each one was not more valuable than the one that was given to that one man. The value was still there. And we have to remember the conundrum which we kind of live in here, and I want you to think about this real quick. That which is in your hand. Think about this servant. Here he is with this bag of gold or this talent. Now, are you ready for this? This is the conundrum. Here you go. Watch this. It's important enough to bury so he didn't lose it. Now, hear me. It's important enough to bury it so he didn't lose it, but not worth multiplying. Think about this. It was important enough because of the master and his fear for the master. It was important enough for him to bury it so he didn't lose it, but it wasn't valuable enough for him to multiply it. I want you to think about that, because I think some of us, we look at things in our life and we go, hey, if I don't do this, if I don't use it, then God's going to be angry at me. But it's really, truly not important enough to us or valuable enough to us to multiply it in our life. It's a gift that's good. That's not that important. You know, I know this might get a little personal, but can I share with you something that happened? And I remember when I was in high school, I had a small group of a bunch of junior high boys. And these boys, let me tell you something about these boys. These boys were radical. As a matter of fact, I don't even know necessarily what to call my small group, because we would start off, this is normally how it would go. I'd walk in and they'd be wrestling. And I'd break it up and say, okay, guys, hold on. And there was always this one kid, Nick, that all of them would just pick on and beat up on. And I mean, it was crazy. And so I actually started having to get there earlier so that they wouldn't fight and get in, just these all-out brawls. And I'd start off with a real quick moment of prayer, like, Lord Jesus, please help. And we'd get into a very quick word. I'm talking like very quick, because it would usually end up like, yeah, are you listening to this? Slap him in the face. And so it would be about a minute of prayer, 5 minutes of the word, and then the rest of the time was wrestling. And it normally ended with all 5 to 7 of these guys ganging up on me. And I looked at this group, I'm like, man, this is worthless. And I actually devalued that group. Went off to college. It was my senior year. I went off to college. I came back. Saw the guys, still rascals. Handed over my small group to somebody else. Tried to do it, still rascals. I didn't really pay any mind to it, because really to me it was insignificant. Bunch of punk junior high boys. The wrestle small group. But I didn't realize it until their senior year. And every single one of them, I remember I was at their graduation, every single one of them came up to me after that, or the ones that were in that school, graduated and were in my small group, they came up to me and said, can I just tell you how significant that small group was to me? And something that I had deemed as insignificant and worthless and a waste of my time, they saw as significant and life-changing. See, we have to be careful how we view things, how valuable things are. The servant viewed that which was given to him. Are you ready for this? This is some of the problems. And this is what I truly believe. The servant viewed that which was given to him based upon what was given to others. I want you to think about that just for a moment. That servant viewed and valued that which was given to him based upon what was given to others. He looked at the guy with 5 coins and he said, dude, that guy's better than me. That guy's more valuable than me. The master gave him 5 and he only gave me 1. And so all of a sudden, in that moment, that servant looked at what was in his hand and actually devalued what was in his hand because of the value of somebody else, or the perceived value that somebody else had. We'll look at ministries that have thousands upon thousands of people, and we will base the value of our ministry based upon how we perceive their value to be, what we perceive their value to be. You look at other people's businesses. You look at other people's jobs. You look at other people's cars. You look at other people's houses, and you will actually value yourself, your self-worth, upon what they have instead of what God gave you. And our whole life, we're living with this comparison issue, going, well, God must not love me. He gave that person a house in Hawaii Kai, and I have a house in Makiki. No, listen, isn't that funny? Because now what? You ready for this? Because we may not say it, but we actually think in our mind, God loves that person more than he loves me. We watch what people drive. We watch how people live. We watch and look at what people have. And we actually perceive that God loves them more than he loves us because what they have, what we don't. And we now determine our value off of what other people have instead of focusing on what God gave us and being happy and being thankful and rejoicing in that which was good. Because this is the problem. Man, that person's talented. That person's talented. That person can do this, this. And I can only do this. I must not be that worthy. I must not be that valuable. And the worst part is we actually demean that thing that God gave us because we didn't receive it. We rejected it because we focused on what others had instead of what God gave us. Am I nailing this in enough? Is it getting to the heart? See, that was the servant's first mistake. And this was the problem. How he viewed what other people had was the determining factor of what he did with what he had. I saw that you gave that person 5, that person 2, and me 1. So it was one of the deciding factors in saying, well, you know, I wasn't trustworthy enough, I guess, for 5. Not cool enough for 2. I just got 1, so, you know, what did you expect? See, the problem was he overlooked the value of what was given to him because of how insignificant it made him feel. Until you can start finding value even in the little, you'll never be able to truly understand. Discover the value of much. See, I'm convinced of this. The value of that person was not decided by who it was given to, but what was given. What do you mean? Now, I want you to see this. The master comes to the servant with 1 and says, where's my talent? Where's my gold? Says, well, I knew that you were harsh. And so I took that and I buried it so I wouldn't lose it. But it wasn't significant enough for me to do anything with it. So here it is. Now this is what's unique to me. Listen. The master actually perceived value. The master looked at that talent and said, wait a second. Didn't you understand that this thing had value? How could you bury something of such great value? He actually considered it wicked for that man to bury that talent because of how valuable that talent. Listen, this thing was valuable enough that the least you could do is put it in the bank. Why? Because it actually had value. And so the master gave that man, listen to me please, gave that man something that he perceived as insignificant, but to the master, it was incredibly significant. And that is why the master looks at him and says, you wicked servant. Why? Because the servant could not find the value of that which was given to him. The servant actually rejected the value of that 1 gold coin. You know what concerns me is the epidemic within the church, that we actually value the crowd more than we do the one. And we'll do everything to get a crowd. We'll do anything to get a crowd. But it's not that important to meet with the one. You know why that is? It's because our identity is wrapped up in the crowd. And now hear me. We don't know how to find identity in the one and value in the one, because we look at the one as insignificant. When we're spending time with the one and ministering to the one, it's not that big of a deal because it's not that valuable. It's because we've set value on the crowd instead of the individual. So we do everything we can to make sure we got a crowd, but we ignore the one. Interesting to me. Even as Jesus shares the parable of the shepherd, the good shepherd that leaves the 99 to go find the one. And I know, now here, I'm not here to spank anybody or condemn you. What I'm hoping tonight to do is to change your value system. That's my heart. And it's not even toward just people. It's toward what's in your hand. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's a call. Isn't it sad that sometimes we reject the call because we deem it insignificant? And God is saying, listen, this is significant. Why? Because what it's going to do for you, what it's going to produce in you. Yeah, but I'm better than this. And in saying that, hear me. I'm better than this. The man with the one talent said, I'm better than this. Really? God, I deserve more than this. I served, I cleaned toilets, I washed windows, I vacuumed floors, I had 100 life groups. God, I'm worth more than this. I know this is nobody here. That's why I'm saying it. So I'm not here to make you feel bad about yourself, but I'm here to say this. So the worst part is God can't do any more through you because you're not willing to humble yourself and say, Lord, I'll receive and I'll be faithful in whatever you give me. Lord, I just want to be faithful. You know what I hope? What my desire is that I'll preach the same whether there's 1,000 people here or 10 people here. Why? Because the 10 people here are worthy of the same message that 1,000 people receive. That I'm going to minister with all my heart. I had a conversation with a pastor. I'm just being transparent with you. I'm just sharing from the heart tonight, can I? A pastor, and it was a really interesting thing because we were headed to Hana. This is when I was on Maui. I was actually, at this time, I was kind of being raised up in ministry, and we're driving to Hana, and the pastor and I are talking, and we're talking about all this stuff, and you just have to know me. I love Hana, but I hate the drive to Hana. And the whole way to Hana, this pastor is talking about how this is a test, that God is putting him through this test to drive all the way out here to Hana to preach to them. And, you know, it's not what God's called me to, but I'm just going to be faithful and obedient because I know that if I'm faithful and obedient to this, God will make me ruler over much. And I said, you're wrong. I said, you have the wrong heart. Why? What are you talking about? I have the wrong heart. I'm being faithful to what he's called me to. I said, well, what if this is it? This can't be it. This is just a stepping stone to what God's called me. What if this is it? See, you've already devalued these people because you see them as a stepping stone instead of what God's called you to. He wasn't very happy. But this is what's interesting. You know what I found out? You know what his preparation for his sermon was? Just pulling out something out of the hat. He didn't pray that week. He didn't get on his knees and cry out to God for a message for Hana because it was only 6 people. See, until you can value how God values, He'll never give you more. Until you can value how God values, He'll never give you more. Not value it so that you get more, but value it because He values it. The problem was, the issue with this servant is he had the fear of the master, which made him bury it, but it was insignificant enough in his life that he did absolutely nothing with it. So the real issue was, he never had true value over that coin. And what made the master so angry is that he devalued that which the master held as valuable and deemed as valuable. Are you hearing me? Are there people in your life that you devalued? Well, I only got 2 people showing up to my life group, so, it's not that valuable. Really? What if this is it? I have to come to realization. What if this is it? Just saying. What if this is it? Now, this is awesome. This is significant. But what if this is it? Am I okay with who I am, and can I find value in this that actually brings value to who I am? Because I realize that God has entrusted me with great and precious and a valuable gift. You see, that's a very interesting question. And I don't know, maybe this message is more for me than it is for you. But I don't know, maybe some of us tonight have been in an issue or a dilemma where we've truly been struggling with valuing that which God has given us. Do you truly value how God values? 1 Corinthians chapter 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2. I hope you guys know my heart tonight. I really hope you guys know my heart. Because what I really want, I'm attempting to do is really bring people to a place where everything that God gives them, whether it's 5 or 1, you know the difference between the man that had 5 and the man that received 1 was not the amount which they received. It was the determined value on that which they received, the perceived value of what they received. The man that received 5 saw the multiplying factor of that which he received. It wasn't about the amount. Stop with the amount thing. Did you know that there's a lot of people that say, "Oh Lord, one day when I'm rich, I'll give." And then they get rich and they never give, because then they go, "Whoa, this is a little too much to give." I'm not even here to talk about giving. All I'm here is to talk about value. Listen to this. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2. Now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. Paul had this incredible revelation. Faithfulness. Faithfulness. I just want to be faithful. You know, my hope is that you just be faithful. Can you imagine if people just said, "Lord, I want to just be faithful with everything you've given me"? It's always interesting. Can I just be transparent with you? Is that okay? It's always interesting going back to Maui and preaching. Because I'm telling you, there are moments. It'd be very easy for me to go back to a church of thousands of people and step in as the prince who's come back home to save the day. And live in a beautiful home for pretty much free. And have an easy life, supposedly. And inherit some awesome, huge ministry which someone else has built. And never have to experience the pain of pioneering a church ever again. And preaching to empty seats. Oh, it'd be so wonderful. But you see, this is the concern. That if what I have and the amount of what I have determines my value, then it's very easy for me to reject Oahu and say, oh. Because Maui has more people. So that means it's more valuable. No, listen. The value is found in the call. Did you hear what I just said? The value is found in the call. And God has said, son, I've brought you here not because I'm trying to discipline you or frustrate you or teach you some lesson to get you ready for Maui. That's wrong. He said, son, I brought you here because my people in Oahu are valuable. And see, sometimes we remember this. And if we easily forget it, we're in trouble. You have to remember this. That we have been entrusted with something valuable. That's why we say every person that walks through those doors, we count it as a miracle from God. And when they walk through those doors, they are deemed valuable. Not because they add to our numbers or add to our bucket, but because God sees them as valuable. Can't take it anymore. This rat race of Oahu of who has the biggest church. My church is bigger than yours. My screen is bigger than yours. My lights are better than yours. My sanctuary holds more chairs. I don't give a rip. Are you faithful? Are you faithful? Are the people valuable, or are they just another number in the seats? Are the people in your life group valuable, or are they just the people that you need in order to meet a quota so that your pastor loves you and brings you up to his sphere of influence? The people in your ministry, are they valuable? Or are they just another person so the pastor can say, hey, good job? See, it's a systemic issue. It's not an issue about how much you have. It's the issue of how you see what you have. Are you hearing this? I need you to get this in your spirit, because some of you are looking at from a heart of disdain at that which you have in your hand. And God's saying, listen, start putting value back into that which I've given you and start seeing how it will unlock your destiny. That's God's heart for us tonight. That's God's heart for every single one of us. It's to change your value system. It's to value how God values. You know, it's a whole lot easier to deal with issues in life when you have a different value system, isn't it? You know, I love culture. Pastor Andrew, you come to the piano. I love culture. And I've noticed certain things about certain cultures. I've lived in Hawaii my whole life. Hawaiians, they value big parties. First parties, graduation parties. There's nobody that can party like a Hawaiian. Let me tell you right now. Hawaiians know how to party. And they will spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars for a party. And it's awesome. Thank God for that. Japanese, you can ask Pastor Ann. They know how to save money. I've learned that from Pastor Ann. Now, I'm not stereotyping, kind of, but they know how to save money. I'm telling you. Listen, I lived in the middle of the Philippines called Maui. And, sorry. And you can, I'm telling you, Filipinos, I love them. I'm telling you, I am partial Filipino. My dad was raised in the Philippines. I have right to claims. But listen, it's so interesting. You go to a Filipino's house. They got like 8 different houses in one house. And 3 Mercedes or BMWs in the garage. And they got 8 families to 20 families living in one house, but they all drive Mercedes and BMWs. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not teasing them. I'm just telling you, people have different value systems. I'm an Italian. Let me tell you something. You can drive one bus-up, junk-along car. You can even live in one junk-along house. As long as you have a big living room and a lot of food in the refrigerator, you're good. I'm telling you. I know my culture, and I know my culture well. As long as you got food on the table, you're good to go. You guys know what I'm talking about. Each culture values things differently. But what about the Christian? What about the Christian? Where do we get our value system from? We value what he values. And in that, when you can value what he values, it changes how you deal with things. It changes what you do. See, my heart tonight truly is to kind of deposit within your spirit, to change your value system, to take that which you're carrying and revalue it in accordance to how God sees it and how God values it, so that you now, instead of holding that with contempt, you see it multiply and grow and flourish in your hand. I know it's an interesting message tonight, but let's come back to that place of value. Let's let God's value system be our value system. Let's say his heart be our heart.